Adam Richards was a 4-time national boxing champion. He even fought for the Cruiserweight Championship of the World, and he was the great heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield's sparring partner for a number of years. Adam joins us today to talk about his boxing career, but also his faith in Christ. Stick around and hear Adam's amazing story on today's edition of In Your Corner.
Hi folks, I'm Kerry Pharr. Welcome to In Your Corner. Hey, this is a very exciting day for me. I'm back home at the old Club Knockout boxing gym, and I feel like all of my children have come home, and one of my sons, that not actually my son, but just like my son, he started in the boxing gym when he was 8 years old and boxed for 12 or 14 years and ended up fighting for a world championship, won 4 national championships. I want to welcome Adam Richards. Adam, so good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you again. Good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. Been too long.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's go back, buddy. I mean, you started in the boxing gym when you were 8 or 9 years old, right?
Yep, eight years old.
Yeah, so. And spent all of those years in the boxing business. And when you were 15 or 16 years of age, you had the distinction of winning 2 national championships back to back. And the interesting thing, folks, about those 2 national championships is that Adam knocked out every single opponent he faced, not one year, but both years. And then he won right after that the Junior World Championship and knocked out a Russian. And the only other person to win 2 National Junior Olympic titles like you did was a fellow by the name of Mike Tyson.
Yes, Mike Tyson.
So that's quite a feat, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome to have your name in the Amateur Boxing Hall of Fame. So I mean, my name is right under Mike Tyson's, which is an honor. So definitely an honor, but it's all hard work. I mean, very hard work. So
yeah, you work. I mean, you spent your life, and folks, I want to tell you, I mean, Adam was short when he was young, but he was heavy, and we didn't have any kids that could spar with him. He always had to spar the men, right?
Yeah, I got beat up. I was just talking to the guys back there. How every one of them eventually beat me up or bloodied my nose. So it's good to see him now when I'm bigger now, and I'm like, oh, let's spar now. So I was like, I got a good round in me. No, but yeah, it was it was all for the best. It made me tough. It made me who I was. So to never give up. So
that's right. And the beautiful thing was, I mean, we had to. I mean, we put you in exhibitions with grown men. We had to because you were a big kid and we couldn't find anybody in your weight division to fight you.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. So.
And I remember back in those days, you'd get so angry you'd start crying when you were 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah, because I was smaller and I always wanted to be a winner. I always hated, I always, it's that winner mentality. It's you do what you have to do to win, and I was small, so but I got my payback when I got a little bit bigger and older. So
yes, you did. Yes, you did.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, when you were 15 or 16 years of age, I remember, I won't mention any names, but I remember a grown man that was a lot older than you, probably close to 30, that you actually knocked out in the gym.
Yep, I remember that. I remember the left hook I hit him with.
I think you hit him with a left hook, right hand, and I remember it too. And he decided he didn't want to spar with you anymore.
Right. I remember he was always the progressor. But then I hit that time in my life where my power really developed, and it developed really quick. So
yeah, I mean, because up until the time you were, maybe 14 years of age, you had fought and you weren't knocking anybody out. Then all of a sudden, when you hit 15, you just started knocking everybody out.
Yeah, for 2.5 years, I knocked everybody out of fall. So,
yeah.
So yeah, it was awesome.
That was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun. It definitely was fun.
Well, what was the highlight of, let's say, your earlier career when you were an amateur and all of that?
Really, just the people you meet. I mean, I got friends all over the world, getting to travel. Like, you know, when I was with Team USA, I mean, I was 15 and went to Greece, and you know, Germany. It was just a blessing to get to travel the world at such an early age and meet so many great people. So
yeah, and then we'll talk about your pro career here in a moment or two. But you know, Adam, the one thing I remember, and I've known you since you were 8 years old, and the one thing I remember was you were always a good-hearted kid, even though in the ring, you know, you were certainly a man, and you were certainly a man to be feared when you started knocking everybody out. But there was a time in your life when you gave your life to Jesus Christ, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, my pastor, Brother Johnny.
Johnny Minnick, the
Johnny
great
Minnick.
gospel singer, yeah.
Yes, and that's my pastor. And I was just going through a period of my life to where things wasn't going right. I wasn't even boxing at this time. I was running a company, and just with the money and just more anger, and nothing seemed to go right. And then one day, my girlfriend at the time was like, "Hey, I want you to go to this church. I want to go to this church." And I went to the church, and we all sat there, and by this time I hadn't been in church in a while, and I was sitting there listening to Brother Johnny's one of his sermons, and then he stopped in the middle of it. He says, "I feel like there's someone here that I need to pray for, someone that needs to let me pray for them and just come clear." And everything that he was saying
spoke to
me 100%. I'm not an emotional guy, and as we prayed, I started crying with my hands over my face, and I've never felt that. I felt
the Holy Spirit came upon you.
I felt free, and I was the only one that raised my hand because I knew he was talking to me. And since that moment, I knew, you know, you have to live right. You have to live right by the Lord. He is, you know, Almighty, and I mean, and He can make mountains move for you. I mean, you just have to give your heart to Him, and you've always. I mean, I don't know where I would be if I wasn't in that moment at that church that time.
If you hadn't given your life to Christ at that time.
It was spiraling, and not always in a bad way, but it was just not the right way. So, and I thank the Lord every day for that one Sunday that she made me go. Because before that, I would never go. But that one Sunday, something told me I needed to go, and I thank the Lord for that every day.
And you made a commitment to the Lord.
I made a commitment to the Lord, and I've been blessed since. I've had my ups and downs. I've been blessed with my wife, my great son. You know, everything. I couldn't have a better life right now. I thank the Lord every day for everything that He's given me.
Well, we'll come back and talk about your pro career in just a moment, and Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, all those guys. Folks, you heard it from the champ, four-time national champion as an amateur, fought for the world championship, spent 5 years as Evander Holyfield's sparring partner and friend. And so we're going to come back and talk more with Adam Richards in just a moment. But I wanted you to hear what he said. Here's a guy that was a heavyweight boxer that said he needed to give his life to Jesus Christ. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. And I want to tell you, don't worry about all this noise. We're having a reunion at the Club Knockout Boxing Gym at our home, and the kids are having a good time. But stick around. We'll be back in just a moment with the rest of Adam Richards' amazing story.
Hi, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Leanne.
We want to welcome you to
In Your Corner.
I want to give you the opportunity today to sow into this ministry. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians 9:8 that God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that you may have an abundance for every good work.
That's a great scripture. You know, Ephesians 5:1 says to be an imitator of God. John 3:16 says that for God so loved the world that He gave. He gave His only Son. He gave His very best. And we too have an opportunity to imitate God when we give.
I'm not going to promise you that when you start giving that all your financial problems are going to go away, because they're not. The Bible says in 2 Thessalonians 3:10 that you don't work, you don't eat. There are Bible principles that you have to go by. And it's not like a jackpot Jesus. You give the money and all of a sudden, you know, pull the lever down, the money comes from heaven. But I will say this, what the Bible says. You set in motion a Bible principle according to Galatians 6:7 says that God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he will reap.
If you've been encouraged by the programming on In Your Corner, go to inyourcorner.tv, click on the donate button, and you'll find everything you need to sow your seed.
Remember this, God is in your corner.
And so are we.
Okay, folks, we're back with Adam Richards, and before the break we were talking about Adam's amazing boxing career. You know, he won 4 national championships as an amateur. He basically set a same record with Mike Tyson. And then, Adam, you turned professional, and you know, you wheeled off several wins on television in the beginning, and you ended up in Houston, Texas, and with the great Ronnie Shields training you. So tell us a little bit about your experience down there.
Yeah, it was great. Nervous, you know, because that's the first time I've ever left Tennessee to go to a training camp. Went down there, out the gate, first day in the gym, here comes Evander Holyfield. So that whole starstruck / I'm fixing to spar this guy.
Who was your idol, by the way?
Right, it was my idol. I mean, I had his video games. I mean, I had his Nintendo game, you know. And it's funny that, and it wasn't that surreal until I'm in the ring and I'm looking across the ring at Evander Holyfield. I'm like, oh man, what have I got myself
Well, did they introduce you beforehand? Or
they introduced us. It's like, hey, you're going to be traveling with Evander. And but before me, he would carry 3 or 4 sparring partners until the first day we sparred. The first day we had sparred, he had threw a punch and I had slipped it and hit him on the uppercut and almost dropped him. Yeah. Wobbled him back, you know, they stopped the sparring, like, hey, you know, you're not supposed to be that aggressive. And I was like, well, that's, and Ronnie was like, no, that's just how he is. I mean, we would have wars. People would just bring in, like, drinks and chairs, and they'd sit here and watch us spar 6,
You
8,
watch
10
one
rounds.
of the greatest heavyweight champions that ever lived.
Yes.
You're hooking it up with Evander Holyfield.
Yes, and he taught me, you taught me a lot, but he taught me a lot of things too.
Well, I mean, there's a lot that I couldn't teach you that Evander could.
The funny thing is, I know that, I mean, I almost dropped him that day, but I eventually did drop him with a body shot. It was a body shot that he taught me to throw, and I actually landed it on him and took him to one knee, and it was just great. I was just like, I can't believe I just did that. I mean, he was my mentor. He really was. I mean, I would go to his house. We'd watch fight tapes. You know, even if I wasn't sparring him, he would watch me spar other people. And him and Ronnie, like, he would help Ronnie coach me. Be like, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to calm down. Try not to be so aggressive. Just let it happen. You know, like you told me back in the day in the Silver Gloves. You need to calm down. Let it happen. And I'm thankful for a lot of things, but you know, just it's never like being with a true sparring and training with a true champion. You know, you are who you train with, and I believe that 100%. If you want to be the best, you got to train with the best.
And so, here you are every day, sparring with one of the greatest. How many heavyweight titles did he win? 5 or 6 times?
He had 6. He had 6. He won the vacant IBF before one of the last times we had sparred. He had won the vacant IBF, so he was a 6-time heavyweight champion. So still, just, I mean, I've talked to him all the time. I talk to him about once a month. He just got inducted into the Las Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame. So I sent him a text message here. Congratulations, champ. So. But yeah, no, it's been a blessing to, you know, train with Evander Holyfield, work with Mike Tyson, you know, be introduced to Lennox Lewis. So it's definitely a blessing. So.
Well, you know, the thing that people don't realize, I mean, you are a title challenger. You fought for the world championship, and boxing is really a small community. I mean, and so when you're inside of boxing, especially if you're in a gym where Ronnie Shields is training you, Ronnie Shields was a great fighter himself, a former national Golden Glove champion, and a great trainer who'd worked with all these fighters. You know, you're going to meet, you know, all of the great fighters. Who were some of the other, you know, notable fighters that you came through the gym while you were there?
I mean, I've met Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, I've been out with Oscar De La Hoya, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, like my brother Juan Diaz and Rocky Juarez. They're like,
you guys spent years in the gym together.
Yeah, they took me in when I first went there, so they're like my brothers. Rocky Juarez, I mean, just numbers of professional athletes that I've met, Antonio Tarver. I mean, I just, there's a long list of them, but it is elite. It's elite level when those guys, once you're a title holder or a titleist, I mean, it's a small group.
Yeah.
And it's a tight group. We fight each other, but we always have each other's back.
Well, sure.
It is an elite level. So I mean, it's not a lot of boxers will be in that predicament to where they're there, but it is a blessing.
All right, so Adam, I mean, you know, you were in that elite group, but let's think about this for a moment. How many people you know, out of society ever get to fight for a world or even an amateur national, you know, like less than 0.1% probably.
Yeah, it's definitely a handful. I mean, it is a handful. So I remember Ronnie telling me before the fight, he's like, "Hey, you've already made it. You're top 10 in the world. I think I was 6 by the WBO, and he's like, you're fighting for a world title." He said, "There's thousands of fighters that'll never accomplish what you're doing tonight," and it's just an honor. You know, it's definitely an honor.
That's right. So, and you know, you were fighting as a heavyweight, and you know, when you first turned pro, you were probably a little small as a heavyweight, and it's amazing. Now that you're in your 30s, you've grown 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little bit taller than I was.
Yeah, that's just blowing me away. But so anyway, you fought as a heavyweight, and then I guess, you know, some people encouraged you to drop down to cruiserweight and fight for the world championship, right?
Yeah. Well, at my fight on HBO with Chaz Witherspoon,
who was Tim Witherspoon's nephew or cousin?
Cousin,
yeah.
right. And I came in at like 220 because I had changed my diet. I got everything right. I mean, just me and my strength conditioning coach, we just could treat everything. And I was having trouble keeping weight on. Once more, you know. And after that, I mean, that was a candidate for Fight of the Year.
Yeah.
So a couple high-end promoters were like, "Hey, you know, if you thought about dropping a cruiserweight," I was like, "Well, I don't know." So they're like, "Well, I'll tell you what, if you drop the cruiserweight, 3 or 4 fights, you'll fight for a world title."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right."
How can you turn that down? I mean, Evander was a cruiserweight champion before he was a heavyweight champion, right?
Right. And,
yeah.
And he wasn't. I had help from him as well, and he told me, "Your speed, you're already powerful." He said, "Your speed will increase." So I took 4 months and did nothing but stick with my strength and conditioning coach. All we did was run and lift weights, and just everything. And I got down to 194 pounds, about 4% body fat. Just as strong, still sparring heavyweights and just dropping heavyweights.
Yeah.
My first 2 cruiserweight fights. My first one was ex light heavyweight champion. I dropped 5 times in 5 rounds. I wound up knocking him out in the 5th round. And then I fought on HBO, and on Juan's undercard, and I wound up fighting a guy from Mississippi, and I wound up knocking him out in the 3rd round. So I mean, I was already, you know, throwing punches, you know, heavy duty again, and then I'm actually in Tennessee when I get the call. "Hey, do you want to fight Marco Huck for the WBO Championship of the World?"
The cruiserweight time, you had to make 190, or
I had to be 200.
You had to be 200.
And I was walking around at 210.
Okay.
At this time. So I said, of course. So I jump on a plane, fly to Houston. I have a 10-week camp, and everything was great. We spent 2 weeks in Germany just preparing for all of this. So, you know.
And so you had the fight with him, and unfortunately you didn't win, but something happened. You got hit, elbowed.
Well, I got an elbow in the back of the head in the 3rd round, and due to the amount of blood I was losing, I didn't realize that I was losing that much blood. But after I've watched it on pay-per-view a couple of times, you can just see it. I got a loss, he got a win. I tried to have my lawyers fight it, and they said because the official didn't say that it was an elbow, there was nothing that they could do. So he took my title from me. So it made me a little upset.
But you know, so but the thing of it is, your career, you know, like you said, you went somewhere that, and you'll always be in the history books as a title challenger. Very few people ever get there. But after that, you gave it up, and you've gotten married, and you've got a family now.
Yes. And like I said, I met my wife right after Hurricane Ike, and it's the best thing could have happened for me. You know, I thought I had the big head at that time. Like I was telling you earlier, I just got sponsored by Flixing Clothing, Everlast, Grant. I mean, I was with them all. I mean, I didn't have anything to worry about. And my head was just getting too big. And my wife was the first one to deflate some of that air. And once I did walk away from boxing, it was the best thing for me. You know, definitely everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And it does. And I believe the good Lord made me and my wife cross paths because it was the best for each of us. So yeah, I walked away boxing. I started my company. You know, built a house. We had a little Gavin. We called him Little Gator because my box name was Swamp Donkey. So where there's a swamp, there's got to be a gator.
Right.
So yeah, just living happily in Texas, Conroe, Texas. You know, like I said, I build houses full in our homes and just do the family thing. And I couldn't be happier in my life.
Wow. Well, folks, there you have it. There is the story of a heavyweight contender. Requiem for a Heavyweight. And I want you to hang around because we're going to bring a couple of Adam's old teammates on the set, and we're going to come back and do another segment in just a moment. But I want you to remember, Adam gave his life to Jesus Christ at a point in time of his life, and even heavyweight boxers that have dropped Evander Holyfield in the gym need Jesus Christ. So I want you today to give your life to Jesus Christ. Just simply say, Lord, I realize I'm a sinner. Forgive me my sin. Come into my life and save me. And He'll do it. So do that, pray, and hang around. We'll be back in just a moment after this short break.
Hello friends, have you ever wanted to know the good, bad, and ugly about professional boxing? Well, I want to share it with you. I want to give you my book, Fight the Good Fight, absolutely free. In it, I detail my 30 years in the sport of professional boxing, and I talk about everybody: Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, all of the boxing greats, and I tell the good, bad, and ugly. I want you to get my book absolutely free today. Just go to inyourcorner.tv and download it right now. That's inyourcorner.tv and download it for free today. Hello friend, we had a reunion at the Club Knockout Gym, and of course you just saw the interview with Adam Richards. Well, we got a couple more of his teammates together with him to discuss their respective boxing careers. Former heavyweight contender Keith McKnight and former title challenger Jonathan Reed join Adam Richards in the next segment. You don't want to miss this.
Okay, folks, we're back with the Adam Richards, and we're going to talk some boxing. A couple of former teammates of Adam's have joined us on the set. Actually, I shouldn't say the set. We're in the boxing gym, and immediately to my right is Jonathan Reed. And Jonathan was a middleweight contender, actually fought William Joppy for the middleweight championship of the world. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to come back and talk to you in just a minute. And of course, Adam, you've heard his story. And then immediately to the right of Adam is Keith McKnight, who actually, this is his gym now. This is the old Club Knockout boxing gym that I started 20-something years ago, and all these guys came through the gym. But I've got too old to cut the mustard, as the old song says. And now this is Keith McKnight's gym. And Keith was a heavyweight contender who knocked out two former world champions. So Keith, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here.
All right.
Well, let's at my gym.
All right. We love you, Jim. Well, let's talk about some boxing. We'll start with Jay Reed. Jay, you actually fought for the middleweight championship of the world. What was that like?
Well, I look at it as being like a deer in headlights. You know, I did fight for the championship. It's the difference between fighting for a championship and being ready for one. You know, we got a call from, Don King's people back in 2000, and they called us on a week notice. You know, so I felt that I was in a win-win situation. What would happen is, if I would have beat Joppy, I would have fought Felix Trinidad in my next fight for like 2.5 mil. The person that Joppy was supposed to fight fell out. So that's where I came in. We had just signed with Don and had a fight on one of his cards in Mississippi. So I guess that's why they called us. But if I had it to do over again, you give me about 8 weeks to get ready, to be a different story.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
And you also were on the NBC's Contender Series also.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had an illustrious career.
Oh, yeah. You know, I've been contemplating getting back in that mamma jamma.
Well, yeah.
I'm 41 years old. I take care of myself. I say, I don't punish my body when I'm not, in the gym training or in there fighting. So that's why I think that I can get back in the ring. I talked to Keith probably a couple of months ago.
Asked him if he'd train you?
He said, man,
come on.
Let's get in here and do it.
Get in here and do it.
Let's get in here and do it. But the Keith that I talked to didn't have all that hair on his face when I talked to him. Lord have mercy.
Growing a beard since you see
Kind of look like a man.
Hey, well, Keith. So let's talk about your career for a moment. You ended up, fought professionally for about 10 years and ended up with a 44-4 record, I think.
Yeah, 44-4.
Knocked out two world champions, former world champions, the great Iran Barkley, and J.B. Williamson.
J.B. Williamson.
Yeah.
Yeah. J.B. was a good fighter. He, like I say, went some good rounds with Foreman, I believe, before I fought him. And then, you know, when I got to him, I was in good shape. I was in my prime. Had a lot of good work in the gym, good team. Here's one of them.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so we got in there and did what we had to do, trained what we had to do, and got the knockout. As far as Barkley, you know, that was one I really wanted. I had seen him fight not too far before I got him, and just felt like that was the right fight for us. And, you know, you set it up, and we got in there, and probably one of my best performances ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, you know, we need to tell the audience, you know, Adam was 10 years younger than these guys.
He was the baby.
He was the baby, and he was coming up, and you guys were spanking him as he was growing up.
Yeah.
What was that like in those days?
It was an experience. So it was one of those on the job training ordeals where I knew I was going to get spanking when I was younger coming up, but I did eventually grow up. So I'm still waiting. We're going to get around after this. Yeah.
You know, the thing that I remember, Keith, about all of you guys had that heart, but I put you in a fight that we haven't talked about when in your very first fight when you were like 16, 17 years old with an experienced fighter.
Right.
And we were in Evansville, Indiana. You got beat that night, but you didn't quit. You came back to the gym, and you were so thin when you started. I remember telling you when you first started, son, they're going to break you in half when you get in the boxing ring. But that you didn't quit, and you had the intestinal fortitude, and I think that's commendable. All you guys didn't quit, and that's why you became champions.
Right. But, you know, on the same token, we had a pretty good coach that, you know, taught us not to quit.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so it's, like he said, it's an individual thing, but behind every good fighter is a team.
Right. Well, we had a family, you know, and folks, what we've done today is this is a reunion at the Club Knockout Gym that we started 20-something years ago. I started, and these guys came along and helped me travel all over the world with these guys. And now Keith runs this gym, and he's got fighters coming up that you'll hear their names. He's got a young man that looks like he's going to be a great fighter, and he's got others coming up. But the one thing that I want to point out, these guys were champions, and you can be a champion too, but I want to encourage you to give your life to Jesus Christ. You know, these guys have talked about, you know, committing their life to Jesus Christ, and I want to invite you today to just simply say to the Lord, Lord, I know I'm a sinner. Please forgive me my sins. Come into my heart and save me, and he'll do that right then and there. And men, I want to tell you, my life has been enriched by knowing you and we probably spent 15 years together in the gym, and I can't tell you what an honor it is for me to be back here with you again today.
Well, I feel the same way, especially
sir.
with all of you. You know, not only were we gym mates, but, you know, we're family for life.
Family.
You know,
Amen.
when you share blood, sweat, and tears with somebody, you're bonded for life.
That's right.
So, you know, that's how I feel.
Definitely.
I agree.
Yeah.
Folks, we appreciate you watching In Your Corner today. Be sure and tune in again next week, same time, same channel.